Okay, so this was not on my radar. I was not going to watch the Diddy documentary. I saw a few Diddy documentaries pop up, but when people started talking about it on TikTok, I'm like, what's going on with this Diddy documentary? So they were talking about the one on Netflix. And that one just came out, and I was like, let me just go check it out, right? Y'all. This Diddy documentary, everybody is talking about how the Diddy documentary is about 50 Cent's revenge and, pettiness and things like that. But the reality is those people aren't seeing the bigger picture here. It's going over people's heads that the Diddy documentary is exposing a mentality and a systematic narcissistic pattern and how people are manipulated into a cult. Why do people you think about that, right? Whenever you see these documentaries come out or any type of whatever that comes out about a cult leader, movie or anything, you're like, what's making these people so dumb? Why did they do that? In the documentary, you're seeing how people's mentalities, especially showing their situations at the time. A lot of the times people end up following people like P. Diddy and becoming yes men and falling into it because of their circumstance. They either don't have family or they're struggling to make it. They're in survival mode. They're starstruck. It's many different things. So, but I want to go over the 23 D's of Diddydom. Okay, stick with me. I'm going to give you 23 D's that I noticed in the documentary, and I'm only on episode 2. It's going really fast and it's exposing a lot. So 23 D's. These D's are going to be exposing some of the things he did. I'm going to use some examples, but mainly I'm going to be speaking to a certain type of person like Diddy. I'm going over 23 traits he has and he used to manipulate his way into his position and to defraud and hurt so many people. So let's jump right into it. The 23 D's of Diddydom. And remember, this describes the type of person you need to be wary of. Okay. I just want to stress that this is not about Diddy. I'm just using his name so that people can pay attention. But this is not about Diddy. This is about a type of person, a persona, a spirit, a mentality. Okay. Number 1, desire. Diddy showed a lot of desire. People who are narcissistic, cult leaders, and people that you really need to look out for, they are very passionate. This is the reason why statistics show that a lot of sociopaths and narcissists are actually in show business. They're on TV. They are news anchors. They're all types of people that you will see in the forefront. Why? Because they have a desire to be acknowledged, to be in the spotlight. So what drove Diddy down this path? Number 1, it is desire. His father gave him a sense of purpose. He overlooked his father's mentality and what he actually did and only focused on feeling significant because of his father. And the reality is he followed in his father's footsteps because the most important thing for him was to be on top, just like his dad. Number 2, discontent. Discontent drives a lot of people to be envious. It drives them to do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do. Sell their soul, if you will. A discontented person is a person that cannot be satisfied with the simple joys of life. They're chasing the wind. All they do is worry about the next big thing, the next big thing. Now, I'm not saying that if you are ever guilty of this makes you that type of person. I'm just saying this is one of their traits, right? That's very flattering, Rapunzel. Number 3. Distortion. Can't understand my own handwriting. Distortion. The way that Diddy was able to manipulate people and put them into a false reality is his own distorted views. It's just like supervillains. Listen to supervillains. If you listen to a supervillain long enough, they almost sound right, right? This is how those narcissistic cult leaders are. They have a distorted view. This is not something that's displayed everywhere. It's just seen by the people who are very close to them. And this is the reason why whenever that discerning person or a person who's been a victim of this person finally comes forward, everybody's like, oh, they couldn't have done that. No, you don't know them, or they seem like such a nice person, because that distorted view system, perception that they have is only reserved for the people that they allow to see them without their mask. right? These are the types of people that go fake jaking in church or in public, and then at home, they're monsters, right? Completely different people. Okay, that's because they have distorted views. Number 4 of the 23 Ds, dependency. Dependency. This works 2 ways. Diddy was dependent upon the artist to make him a star because he didn't really have talent. So, well, his talent wasn't for the industry, right? In terms of being a rapper or singer or anything like that. But he was dependent on their stardom. That's why he was always jumping in all the videos, outside of the fact that he was able to pay himself because of that. That was a strategic move as well. But he always wanted to be in the spotlight. So he would use Biggie, Craig Mack, and all of these people who, he would put eyes on them so he can jump in the spotlight. The other part of this is he made people dependent on him. He would put people in predatory contracts so that they had to depend on him. Be wary of people who have low integrity, right? They're liars, manipulators, but they offer you help. Never accept help from that type of person. Every time somebody got involved with Diddy, he was presenting support to them, only to turn around and use them and have them dependent upon him. And he wasn't even providing for them. Okay, he was only using them to provide for himself. So he was dependent upon them. They were dependent upon him. And that is how, thank you, Angela, that is how people end up in these situations long term. The guy who started off as like the first Diddy yes man, the guy he started his label with, he said, people ask me why did I do that? And he said, sometimes when you build something up, you just don't want to see it fall. He put his self-worth and his success wrapped up into Bad Boy, which turned him into a bad boy, or at least a protector of a bad boy, because he didn't want to lose out on his investment. Think about the people who have relationships with people who they continue dealing with abuse and manipulation that they know they don't like, but because they need that person, or they think they do, they don't want to live life without what they built, and they don't want to lose out on their investment. Angela says, and girl, I left the man who took advantage of me as a 17-year-old girl. I had 2 daughters with him. I worked my butt off and got my own place. I didn't settle. I'm 26. Good for you. He was way older. I learned my lesson. Right. And sometimes I talk about this, about how women put themselves in a position to be completely dependent on a man, and then come to find out there's a price to it. All right, number 5, displacement. So one of the things Diddy would do was he would put people in a situation where they were dependent on him to the point where they could get evicted from where they lived if they didn't stay connected with him. Why? Because he would put them in such predatory contracts that they were always owing him money to the point where they couldn't even pay their bills. So he had these people displaced. These people not only were displaced physically, but mentally. They become disenchanted. Something that they loved to do, they started to hate because of him. A narcissistic person will always put you outside of yourself. Now, all of a sudden, you're acting out of character. You didn't even know that you were capable of some of the things that you've said and done because of the situations they put you in. Anytime you find yourself doing things and saying things you ordinarily wouldn't do and say, and it's making the worst come out of you, that is because you are dealing with a narcissistic person. They might be a sociopath, they might be a psychopath, depending. Diddy is a psychopath. There is a difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. He is a psychopath, okay? The people who will work under him were sociopaths, some of them. Thank you, Mimi. Number 6 of the 23 Ds of Diddy. Dissatisfaction. So no matter, they said at a certain point, Diddy kept getting money, kept getting power. And no matter how much money and power he got, he was never satisfied with it. He was greedy. This is the mentality that turns people into criminals. They live outside of social norms because they don't think the rules apply to them. Why? Because they always want something that is just out of reach. And every time something is just out of reach, it always puts them in a lot of moral dilemmas where they're confronted with, do they do what's right, or do they do what they can do to easily get ahead? I just made a video that TikTok was not letting me post about Trump and how people like him actually don't know about business at all, because you actually don't have to break the law. Look at Jeff Bezos, look at Mark, look at all these people. You don't have to break the law, right? You can get around the law, But you don't have to break the law to become rich. So if you do that, that's because you are greedy, you're never satisfied, and that is what can turn you into a monster. Okay? Never satisfied. Number 7, drain. Drain. A narcissistic person is always going to drain you. You feel fatigued, you feel confused because they are energy vampires. Okay? Energy vampires. They drain you, and what are they doing? They're gaining, they're siphoning off all the things that you brought into the table. They say, what do you bring to the table? Well, when you're dealing with a narcissist, whatever it is you're bringing to the table is going to be destiny swapped out, and you're going to get what they get. You'll be in situations where you call yourself trying to help somebody. You're dealing with a narcissist who has a lot of bad things coming to them, and they find you as an easy mark because of your kindness. And you come to them with resources and capabilities and support. Next thing you know, they have the resources, they have the support, and you have none. That's what they're doing. They're draining you. Number 8, diminishing. Diddy will always diminish other people. He would diminish their needs, diminish their value, because his mentor put it in his mind, and I don't think this was his intent, but this is the way he took it. His mentor put it in his mind that he was more important than any of the artists. So he didn't see those artists as people. Why do you think that he was able to do those things? Listen to me when I say this. This is an easy way for you to recognize who's a narcissist, psychopath, sociopath in your realm. If that person is able to habitually do you wrong, and I'm not talking about people who have weak egos, who find any type of feedback or criticism as aggression and abuse, okay? You know who you are, because there is a difference between somebody abusing you and putting you down versus somebody actually giving you constructive criticism. And because you've never had to think about things like that, you get upset and you feel like you're being attacked, and you say you're being attacked, which is a cop-out, okay? There's a difference between that and a person who's actually abusing you and hurting you mentally, emotionally, physically, all right? Anybody that does that to you habitually is a person that does not care about you as a human being. You are not a human being in their eyes. And that's the reason why they can do what they're doing to you. You are a tool in their world. And that's how Diddy saw all of these talented people, all of these talented artists that we looked up to growing up. He only saw them as a tool for whatever he wanted. Okay. Number 9, desperation. The reason that Diddy was driven from day one is because he was desperate. He was desperate to live up to his father's image and walk in his shoes. That desperation was so strong, it motivated him to do things that should have been embarrassing to him. But I just want to go out on, I'm okay. I'm going to correct myself and just make sure that I don't say the wrong thing. Researchers have found that what a lot of us have thought is true. Nature trumps nurture. Whenever somebody comes into this world, they come in pre-programmed based on their predispositions, okay? However, how they are raised and socialized also kind of offsets that or reinforces it. Depends on how and where they're raised and when. I don't think that Diddy was raised with a lot of values, but I don't want to also put this all on his mom, because I personally believe that, like many other people, Diddy came here messed up because of who his father was. The way that evolutionary biology works is that you know how the cloud syncs, right? You do something on your phone and the data syncs to the cloud, right? Just that fast. Okay. Well, that's how fast our reproductive organs, sperm and eggs, work. Whatever happens to you, whatever you go through, is that information is downloaded into your eggs, especially women and sperm for men. It is all to prepare that child for the world that they will have to live in. Okay, it's updating so that child, so it's over and over again. And I'm trying to tell you that Diddy's wiring came from his father's wiring and conditioning. So when he came here fucked up. And I think his environment reinforced that. Example, you have a child with a sociopath, murderer, drug dealer, whatever. Okay. Let's not make this a black thing. You have a child with an abusive person, okay? Abusive, narcissistic, psychopath, whatever. If that child grows up in an environment that reinforces that way of thinking, that's going to create a monster. Now, if that child grows up in a good home that is positive and moral, okay, that will kind of offset them. They still will be shitty time to time, but they won't be shitty most of the time. A person who came here jacked up because of who their parents were and come into the hood or an abusive situation, chaotic, dysfunctional family, is going to be a monster. And you're going to start seeing it early. You're going to start seeing it in their youth. Usually around between the ages of 15 and 17, they really start showing out. This is when doctors start to see if your child is going to be a sociopath. They can tell by the age of 17 if your child is going to be going in and out of jail for the rest of their life, right? Based on their behaviors. So that's important to state. I don't want to blame this all on his mom or dad. He came here messed up. His circumstance was messed up, and he just did messed up things as a result. Number 10, we're talking about the 23 Ds of Diddy. Number 10, deprivation. What type of deprivation? I believe that Diddy was deprived of actual empathy. I think that his mom, based on the things I've heard about her, probably also has sociopathic tendencies. She probably was abusive. That's some of the things I've heard. And for that reason, he was deprived of the serotonin that we need to be happy in adulthood. When a child grows up in an environment where the mother is distant from them or abuses them, right? If they grow up with that type of, they're hungry, they don't have food, their basic needs aren't met emotionally and physically, they go into survival mode. Those are the children who are most at risk for becoming sociopath. It also hinders their thinking capabilities. It makes it so that there's less gray matter between the two hemispheres of their brain. What does that mean? It's easier to do criminal things when you are not smart enough to think of doing it the correct way. Okay? So when you grow up in an impoverished situation with abuse, you are most likely to have lower intelligence and to engage in criminal activity. Okay, so let's just put that out there. I believe that Diddy was deprived. I don't think that he was deprived of his basic needs. I think he was deprived of emotional wellness. And I have seen how men can grow up like that because the environment that they grew up in, they had all the stuff they need, but their parents didn't have the stuff on the inside to actually raise them right. So you were going to school with kids who were bullies, and these bullies, they always had food to eat. They had a nice place to live. They always had decent clothes, shoes. They weren't deprived. So why were they acting like that? Because at home, they were being deprived of emotional stability and support. Number 11, devaluing. Diddy always devalued the people in his life. Because remember, if you think of everybody as a pawn, that's because you have devalued them. The sad thing is that he also devalued his soul. I don't believe that Diddy believes in the soul. Because, and this is what I want to say, people who behave like this, I'll just put it plainly. If people that you know act like there's no God and they don't believe in a God, they don't. Okay? Forget what they said. Forget where they was raised up in church. Forget what their mama said. Okay? Doesn't matter. My mom was a nurse. Can I go and work in a hospital? No. My mom's profession does not make me an expert. Your parents' religion or spirituality level does not make you right in your spirit. Okay? I don't think Diddy valued the soul at all. This is the reason why the first thing he said on the documentary is that when he saw these dudes with money, he was like, oh, these people have money and power. I want that. I just want you to think for a second, okay? Have you ever looked at somebody and said, this person has money and power. Whatever they're doing, that's what I want to do. If you think like that, you're probably a sociopath. Okay? It's one thing to admire somebody's hustle or their achievements. It's another thing to have avarice to covet, to see what. So coveting doesn't mean that you lust after something somebody has. It means you intend to take it from them. That's what Diddy did. Coveting means you want to take it from them. Whenever Diddy saw something that somebody else had, he wanted it and he sought to take it from them, straight up in their face. Whether it was your girl, your money, your talent, whatever it was. You have to be wary of people who covet, okay? See, some of y'all think y'all have haters. Let me tell you something. There's people who don't like you. Oh well, they're insecure. A hater wants to see you destroyed. A hater wants to have what's yours. They don't want to have something like yours. They want yours. You understand? They don't want a man. They want your man. They don't want fans. They want your fans. You get what I'm saying? They want your spot. That's how Diddy was. Okay? So when you have no value of the spirit of your soul, you don't think that there's going to be, and I met some people who really don't believe in reaping what you sow. They don't think that anything will ever happen to them. And that's the delusion. We're going to get into that Diddy had, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. Number 12, dominance. Diddy sought to dominate people. He didn't want to just, you ever had, this for the ladies, you ever had one of those friends who wanted to control you? I was watching this movie. It's an old movie with Ricky Lake. It's on YouTube. It's called Baby Cakes. If you really want to get pissed off, watch that movie. When you see that movie, you'll see that she has a friend. Now, Ricky Lake, we know Ricky Lake always been a heavy girl. In the movie Baby Cakes on YouTube, it is about a heavyset girl and all the people who shit on her whole life. And one of those people is her friend, her best friend. When Ricky actually got a man for once in her life and she was happy, her friend was pissed off because she was doing everything she could to thwart that relationship. Why? Because if Ricky went off and had a man, nobody didn't like her, so she didn't have nobody to hang out with. So she was jealous of the relationship. So she was like, you got to choose between him or me. Because as soon as he leaves you, you're going to want to hang out with me again. First of all, women like that have always creeped me out. And I am going to get the hell away from you as quickly as possible if you ever try to be controlling over me. I've dealt with that a few times. To me, it really gives lesbianism, okay? To me, that gives, you don't just want to be my friend, okay? So I don't like that. It's bad enough. But come to find out, on the Diddy documentary, we learned that, this is a spoiler, guys. Click off and then come back if you don't want to be spoiled on what the Diddy documentary on Netflix reveals. Remember the East Coast, West Coast beef? Yeah, that wasn't real. Diddy was a marketer. Whatever it is that was going on was something he made up. What we were seeing on TV, the whole narrative, he made that up. The East Coast, West Coast beef was made up by Diddy. Yes. Do you know what the East Coast, West Coast beef was really about? It was about Diddy being jealous of Tupac and Biggie's relationship. When Diddy got fired from his label, he went and started another one, and he took Biggie with him. He built Biggie up, and Tupac was already a star at that time. Diddy got obsessed with Tupac because he was so fucking cool. This is the reason why you need to pay attention to the people who at first admire you. Not everybody admires you is actually, who you think they are. Because the whole reason why Diddy admired Tupac is because he wanted to take his fucking place. They were studying Tupac, just all his stuff. And so they finally got close enough to him. Another thing you got to look out for, proximity. They got close to Tupac so they could steal from him. Biggie didn't know a damn thing about this. So Diddy and his right-hand man, they positioned Biggie next to Tupac so they could get close enough to learn Tupac's secret sauce and use it on Biggie. Make him a big star too, okay? Biggie, meanwhile, is getting cool with Tupac, and Tupac admired Biggie from the jump. He actually wanted to connect with him, and he brought him on tour with him and let him open up for him so that he could get recognized, okay? So he could come up. So Tupac actually put Biggie on, okay? Now, when Diddy started to see that shit, Everybody that was already around Diddy already knew that he was jealous as fuck. If he was connected to you, he owned you. Whether you work with him, you were his woman, or you was his friend. He wanted to control every fucking body. So when he saw that his friend Biggie was getting cool with Tupac, now that admiration of Tupac turned into straight up cold-blooded jealousy. Then all of a sudden this narrative comes up of, oh, he don't like you. He slept with your wife. They set Tupac up. They created this fake East Coast, West Coast thing. And then Diddy danced his way on the stage and pretended that he was trying to squash it when he was literally the originator of the shit. Okay. Diddy is responsible for what happened to those men because he was jealous. He needed to dominate. So when you're dealing with people who want to isolate you and they want to control everything you do, in combination with these things I'm talking about, watch out. All right. Number 13, direction. We're going over 23 Ds of Diddy. Direction. The way that Diddy was able to always stay paid, regardless of whether his artists were making money, is he put them in a situation where they had to pay him regardless. You ever been in one of those? Have you ever heard of those agencies that try to charge people for being in their agency, or those publishing companies who make the author pay them to get representation? Okay, this is what he set up, but for the record industry. He set up a system that paid him regardless of how well you did. By the way, if you're in business, franchising is a lot like this. You have to watch out for predatory franchising contracts. If you buy a business, they will put shit in the contract that basically sets you up to fail and makes it so that they get paid regardless of whether you succeed or fail. So one of the ways that Diddy would do that is by giving direction. So he was charging them for teaching them and helping them, even though their success would have been his success anyway. So if you can imagine that he's a producer and he gives them the label. He gives them the money. I'm gonna tell you a short story. He gives them the advance, and then now they owe him for studio time, directing in the music videos, helping them put together their image. He jumps in their videos, so he has to pay himself. He jumps on their songs, so he has to pay himself. He was taking money from them left and right. So all the money he gave them will come immediately back. By the way, this is a very common wealth tactic. It's called financial engineering. Most companies operate like this, okay? And some nonprofits. I remember a pastor that at this church, what he would do is he would collect tithes and offerings from his employees on a continuous, nonstop basis and monitor how much they were giving. When he was paying them, they was paying money back into the church, which was paying him. So this is a dynamic that kept the money coming back to him regardless, because he was always constantly emphasizing give. So. And if you weren't doing it, they were paying attention, and you might have lost your job if you stopped sewing into the church. Backhanded, conniving. I remember one time he also built a studio with his own money and got the church to sow the money to recoup on his money that for the studio he bought. And he created that studio just so he could ask for more money. So direction. And also I'll just say that Diddy was misdirected, or he had no direction. His soul had no direction. Okay. Number 14, drive. What all of these things, all these D's that I've gone over so far was disguised as drive. The discontent, the distortion, the dissatisfaction, desire, the displacement, all of these things was disguised as, oh, I'm just a driven hustler. Let me tell you something, babe. There is no excuse to cheat people in business, because you could literally just be honest with them. I was telling my son that 32,000 people lost their jobs last month. And most of the times companies will make up an excuse to fire you and say it's based on low performance because they need their investors to believe that they're still doing well. But some companies are honest with you and they'll say, The reason why we have to lay you off is because we just don't have good profit margins. And we have to do it to save the company. That's something somebody can respect. They won't like it, but they'll respect it because at least you told them the truth. You didn't short them on their paycheck. You didn't say, "Oh, I'm gonna pay it to you." Da 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 da. Diddy constantly created confusion around paying people. Okay, and so that's why he was able. But you don't have to be unscrupulous. You don't have to be scandalous. You don't have to be a con artist to be in business or be successful at business. So I'm telling you that when you see people being conning people and doing all this type of shit, what that means is either that person is evil or they're just dumb and they shouldn't be in business. They need to go back to the drawing board and they need to sit down and learn for a while. Because if you knew business, if you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't have to cheat anybody. Right? But I also think that Diddy was just evil. Let's see. Number 15 out of the 23 D's of Diddy is determination. Determination is a double-edged sword. It can be a good thing, just like water. Water can refresh you. It can also drown you. Fire can warm you. It can also burn you. Determination can help you to reach a goal, but people can always also use determination to destroy. These types of people are so determined that you become collateral damage. Like I said, they don't value you. They don't see you as real people. So when a person is so determined that they stop giving a fuck about morals and people, now we have a problem. I'm a very driven person. A lot of the people that know me say that I'm the most driven person that they know, that I'm always motivated, blah, blah, blah. My secret is I really can't help it, and this is just the way I am, and it's not something I'm trying to do. It's just something that I'm wired to do. So I can't get any clout off of that. I just like being this way. But I would never get so determined in reaching a goal that I forget that I need to be a good person by the time I get there. I'm always judging myself on who am I becoming on the way to what I want. Because at the end of the day, whenever I reach that big day, whatever it is, I don't want to be an evil person. I don't want to look back and see a trail of bodies because I had to get my way to the top. Okay. One of my biggest flex, and I feel my biggest flex is I know that when I leave this earth, I am not going to have to answer for a lot of bullshit. Okay. I'm glad about that. I lay my head down at night knowing that I'm not going to have to be shown a whole bunch of hurt that I caused other people. That matters more to me than anything I can gain here. The problem with Diddy is he's the opposite. Okay. Number 16, design. Like I said, everything that Diddy was doing was by design. He was a marketer and controlled the narrative. So you'll see in the documentary, people are describing how he would literally set things up to look a certain way. And by the way, it's an open secret that a lot of these celebrities, they have their their candid pictures taken. They're out and about and they're shopping. And no, that was set up. Paparazzi was told, be here. She's going to come out of this store at this time and make sure you're there to take the pictures and then send it over here. And then we're going to edit them and then you can put them out. Okay. That's their photographers doing that. A lot of being a celebrity is smoke and mirrors. It's make believe. Okay. So Diddy designed a narrative about himself and designed a world that we bought into. We bought into the East Coast, West Coast beef. We bought into everything he said because TikTok and all that didn't exist where people were exposing people. Like we weren't seeing that type of stuff. I remember on one part of the documentary, they said that Diddy had made himself look so much bigger than he was that one day he went to a ball game. I think it was a basketball game. And he even credits this event as the event that made him famous because he had made himself seem so larger than life that he went to this event and he was trying to give out tickets or whatever. And people stormed the area and 9 people were trampled to death. 9 people were trampled to death. And that's how he shot to stardom. Because he created a catastrophic tragedy with lies. Yeah, somebody said that was a ritual. That's the first thing I thought. That's another story. Number 17 out of 23, out of the 23 D's of Diddy, deception. Everything that Diddy was saying to his people, to the public, to himself was deception. I made a post today saying that authentic people like me because they know I don't lie to myself or others. And I noticed that people who don't like me are people who lie to themselves and others. Liars hate me. They always have, and they always will. Pay attention to people who cannot stand an honest person. They'll never say that's the reason why. They're going to make up a reason why they don't like the person. But look at that person. Are they an honest, pure heart? Okay. That's because that's a fucking liar that you're dealing with. And that person's pure spirit shines a light on them that they don't like. And they don't like being around people who can expose them. Okay. So that's why the liars hate the truth tellers. You could not, and this just goes across the board, guys. You could not survive in Diddy's world being an honest person. You either were lying to cover for him or lying by omission. And I wanted to make a post about this. People truly underestimate people's willingness to co-conspire. Have you ever met a woman, a married woman or a married man that was a liar? Habitual liar. I'm not talking about somebody who just lies about an affair. I'm talking about just somebody that is a pathological liar. The spouse knows about it. They're the first person to know. The spouse backs them up in their lives. That's the reason why they continue to do it. That's why they're still together. Because if they hated the lies, they couldn't be with them. Friends at work, they lie for each other. Lie for each other to get people fired, to cover for each other, right? People co-conspire to their own benefit, and they do it a lot. I'm neurodivergent, so I don't think in this wavelength. I'm 40 years old, figuring out how common it is for people to like collaborate on bullshit lies. You know, I ain't never did that before. I ain't never did that before. Like, I don't even know how to. I just don't. So, don't buck my head up, Bree. Okay. Number 18. Disguise. Diddy was disguising himself as the good guy. He was disguising himself as the talented guy. He had talent. He has talent. His talent wasn't the talent that everybody thought it was. Okay. I don't have a skincare routine. I actually should have a skincare routine, girl. I neglect my skincare routine. That's very bad because at my age, I should be more, somebody said he was very strategic in the past few years, branding himself as love. That's right. No, Brie, I'm just good at makeup on. That's why. Knowing he was about to get exposed, yes. Somebody said, I used to lie all the time, but I got delivered. Yes. Sometimes there's a difference between, I just want to say this, it may not matter that much to certain people, but there is a difference between people who lie because they are anxious and insecure versus people who lie maliciously with ill intent. Not just to protect themselves, but to hurt other people, to cover up things. So, yes. So Diddy wore a mask for the public. Number 19, distraction. So this is what he used in his operations. Because I promise you, I don't remember anybody having these thoughts about Diddy. Like, we were completely in the dark. And that's because he was always having us distracted with this new song, this new hit. If anything was coming out in accusations and charges, nobody was paying attention to him because, 112 just dropped this new song. Lil' Kim just dropped this new song. A narcissist always keeps you distracted. Okay? They always keep you distracted. And this is why a lot of times you got to take time away from dating, y'all. or separate if you're in a marriage. Because if you're dealing with somebody like this, you can't get anything done. You notice how when you leave somebody like this, you end up like reaching all of these goals that you've been taking so long to do? It was them. It was them the whole time. Women out here in marriages can't get anything done within 3 years. They start a business in 4 years. They have a degree, a whole new career because they let go of people like this. I thought it was duping. Duping. Somebody said, wow, yes, my mom earned so much money after she left her ex. Diddy was the king of duping people. Duping people into thinking they were going to get paid. Duping people into thinking he was a good guy. Duping people into thinking that he was making his money honestly. And it was just because he was just such a genius and so smart and he's such a hustler. The real truth was that he was not paying people, screwing people over in contracts, and blackmailing people. Someone said, when did having a shiny dot on the nose get so popular? I don't know. Anyway, so 23 Ds of Diddy. Number 21, one over there, danger. Diddy used to threaten people. He used to threaten danger, and this is why a lot of people were afraid of him. This is something that narcissists do. They use the threat of danger or real danger to get people to do what they want. Okay. It goes without saying. You don't need to hi, sweet potato pie. You don't need to have people like that in your life. Number 22 out of the 23, we're almost done. Delusion. Now, delusion is necessary to a certain extent. People who have found success, a lot of times they remark on having this delusional confidence and just belief, faith in themselves and what they're trying to do. I can attest to that. I really can. But a lot of times these types of people have a delusion about who they really are. It's like these types of people are really good at manipulating people because they first lied to themselves. They bought into their own bullshit. I like this trend that is going on TikTok where they're saying she or he is exactly who they say they are. Yeah, because some people aren't. When you go through these seasons of what is it? That's imposter syndrome. When you go through these seasons of say, am I really this good? Am I just faking it, et cetera, et cetera? I feel like a healthy dose of that is okay. Because there are times that we do need to evaluate ourselves. We don't want to talk ourselves into promises that we can't keep. We don't want to oversell. That's what we call it in business. We don't want to oversell ourselves. Now we've created a huge list of things we need to deliver on, when really we could have just promised exactly what they wanted and then over-delivered, but not be obligated to, right? Because life happens. But Diddy was deluded. I believe that he had a lot of a sense of grandeur. He was deluded about who he was, who he is. And I also think he deluded himself into thinking that he would never get found out. Guys, it really pisses me off when I see people say, oh, he's a famous this and that. Why would he do that? He wouldn't do that because that would be stupid. Babe, you're basing what they do on what you do in their situation. Potential is what you would do in their situation. You wouldn't be that stupid. They would. Have you ever known stupid people? Yes. Okay. This is a mistake that I see a lot of people make. They see rich people and they think, wow, this person must be a genius. Wrong. They see basketball players and football players and they put them on this pedestal and then they think that this person just all around is a good person, disciplined person. No, there is a king and a fool in everybody. You could be a king in one area, a fool in another area. And a lot of these people out here are living off of this bullshit that y'all have propped them up with. Society propped them up with thinking that they're all that because they can bounce a ball, because they can throw a football, because they can do this and that, sing, dance, blah, 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 and they make a lot of money. No, it's just a skill set. I know how to do makeup. Does that make me better than you? Does that make me smarter than you? Does that make me more moral? No. A person who knows how to get money just knows how to get money. And Diddy is a perfect example of how a lot of these people, the only reason why they made it to where they are is because they're willing to do underhanded shit that you wouldn't do. So y'all are automatically assuming these people have all of these positive qualities just because they have mastered something that you have yet to master. It's just another skill. They know something you don't know. How they get all of this clout and respect is because they keep it a mystery so that you can think that they're better. This is how a lot of these people make their money. Some of these people, they set themselves in close proximity to rich people. I've seen it done several times. They do what Diddy did. They piggyback off of other people's actual success, other people's actual practices and things that they built. They put themselves adjacent to those people just so that they can get clout from being around them. Then the next thing you know, they're selling classes on how to be rich, this and that. When the only reason why they're getting money is because they're telling you, I can tell you how to get rich, and that's how you get rich. You've seen it before. So I really wish, especially after this whole administration, I wish that people finally get, after watching this whole administration be as stupid as they are and seeing how stupid Elon is, that they finally realize that having money or being rich does not mean that person is smart. They have one area that they're really good at, okay? That doesn't make them any better than you. It's just a skill set. Sewing, dancing, singing, okay? It's just a skill set. And finally, dramatization. The 23 Ds of Diddy, dramatization. With people like this, their whole life is a drama. They always have drama because they're always kicking up shit. They're always doing people wrong. They're always screwing people over and messing their lives up, sabotaging whatever good thing that any good people that come into their lives, they fuck it up. Drama, drama, drama. Their life is a Lifetime movie of their own doing. They are the villain in their own story. We can love people and really be honest about who they really are. There's people that we love that end up in bad situations because they're always making bad decisions. When they put themselves in bad predicaments, we usually think of them as victims. But at a certain point, you actually need to look at the habits. If somebody lies and we catch them in a lie, you really only have to lie once to be a liar. But if we catch somebody in a lie, we give them grace. But when we see that someone is a habitual liar, we call them a liar, okay? And then at that point, you can make a decision on whether you really want to be in close proximity with that person. Because you know, eventually it's going to catch up to you because you're in proximity to them, okay? Sometimes we need to look at the reoccurring themes in people's lives and accept who they are as they are. I think a lot of times we don't do that because it will require us to make a decision that we don't want to make. And as a person who has cut off like 90% of their family, it's a slow process sometimes. But I can tell you that what I was afraid of actually was the best thing. And now I am the happiest I've ever been, and I cut off 90% of my family. And that's the reason why. If you have a Diddy type person in your life, that person is chaotic, and they're always going to be chaotic. You have to be wise enough and brave enough to actually step back. You have to scale down. I'm going to tell you, a lot of times you guys are telling yourself a story in your head. What would people think? What would people say? If I can't cut off my child, I can't cut off my own sister, I can't cut off my own brother, or we've been married for 20 years, I can't cut them off. And you keep allowing this person access because you won't be real with yourself about who they are. So if anything, I think that when I finished watching this documentary, looking at all the people, even on a second episode, you could see that all of these people wish they could go back in time and really just accept who Diddy was when he showed them. He showed them so many times, and none of them walked away. People walk away when they get tired. People walk away when it's no longer working for them. So you might be asking yourself why somebody won't walk away from somebody else, because they ain't tired yet. They're going to walk away when they get tired. They ain't tired yet. They haven't been dragged long enough. Once they've been dragged long enough, they're going to get tired. So that is it. I am going to turn this documentary back on and finish it. I encourage y'all to finish it because I heard that 50 Cent got a cease and desist. So I don't know how long this documentary is going to be on Netflix, but I know I'm about to watch it. So at least I can say I watched it before it got taken down. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging on. See y'all later. Have a good one.